Hey everybody, it's RJ, your host, and welcome to Hash It Out. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Solvi Barber of Identity about how federal regulations in the US and other nations affect the operations of CBD, hemp, and wellness product companies. We'll also discuss the importance of safe, responsible, and ethical hemp and CBD processing, maintaining trust between hemp and cannabis companies and the cannabis community, developing foods that are not only delicious but also healthy and efficacious, and more. Without further ado, let's hash it out. All right, my guest today is the CEO of the CBD and natural products company Identity. Welcome to the show, Solvi Barber. Hello, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Where are you joining us virtually from today?
I'm in Seattle right now.
Seattle, okay. I love Seattle. I don't get up there nearly enough, but I've got some family up there. So I think last time I was up there was like 2017 or something. Love it up there. Super, super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't beat the Pacific Northwest. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful and great people.
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much for sitting down and having a conversation with me today and sharing all that you've got going on over at Identity, and then going into some of the greater cannabis topics that are in the minds of everyone, at least here in the US and internationally. Diving in here, I understand that Identity International, as you mentioned, is a Seattle-based company. You also have a European office located in Oslo, Norway. And Identity develops food, wellness, and CBD products focused on the sustainability of small family farms and science. So my first question for you, Solvi, is as the CEO of the company and being an award-winning business leader and Norwegian film director yourself, just to name a few of your accolades and experience, tell me about how you got into the cannabinoid industry in the first place, and wherein that passion lies.
Yeah, so the founder was a friend of mine, and he had some serious medical issues that led him to try CBD and cannabis actually here in the United States because he had so severe side effects of some of the medication he had been using. And he decided that he wanted to spend the rest of his life promoting healthy lifestyle, and of course also see what he can do with the CBD products and the great effects that CBD can have on the body. So he asked me to join, and I thought that was a great mission, and I thought that why not? Very interesting new industry, and also very important, I think, to look at cannabis maybe in a different way than the stereotypical way that especially in countries where it's not legalized, and maybe where the information hasn't been complete, put it that way.
Yeah, certainly. It's certainly important, I think, in this modern age that we're in now in terms of cannabis legislation and perception. You know, we still certainly have a long way to go in terms of cannabis legislation in the US and internationally, but I feel like in many ways the perception of the even the stereotypes of the average cannabis or hemp or CBD user is definitely changing, and it's in no small part to the people in the community and people who are running companies such as yours, who are making an active effort to change that perception, which I think is very, very important. You had mentioned that the founder of the company, who, if I have their name right, is Rune Sindigen. If I pronounce that wrong, please correct me. But you mentioned that he was experiencing an illness many years ago, and he credited a significant role in his recovery to the CBD and natural products that he used, which ultimately led to the founding of the company. I understand that you have been CEO of Identity for over 3 years now. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
So, please, yeah.
No, just going to say that when he decided to start the company in the beginning, of course, I was going to help him set it up here in the United States, etc. But as we started that process, of course, I got more and more involved and wanted to be a part of making sure also that everything was done correctly, on the legal side, but of course also on the quality side, and to make sure that the products had the quality and the integrity that he was looking for.
Certainly. And so, over the course of the over 3 years now that you've been CEO of Identity, tell me about what it's been like to see these CBD and wellness products really improve the lives of so many people out there in the US or even internationally that really need access to these beneficial compounds in order to, promote their well-being and really mitigate some very serious symptoms that they're experiencing in their daily lives.
Yeah, so first of all, I have to say that, one of the main thing is to have the integrity of the products. It's really also about making sure that it is the best product that you can have, so that you have respect for the plant, and that you understand also that how important it is to grow it organically, grow it like we are doing, like family farm style, where we have full control over the biomass, what we are doing, the whole process, so that it isn't compromised with GMO or with, or whatever. With using non-organic methods, because I do think, given the plant and how it's absorbing everything from what's in the soil to what's in the air, is so important to understand that you have to have a good product. That's number one. And then you can really see how that affects positively the lives of the wellness of people. But of course, Identity is more than just CBD products, and that's the whole thing. It's a philosophy, and I hope many, many more join this philosophy and this movement. For, as we see it, it's the future of food, and we see it much bigger than just CBD and cannabis, but that the future of food is where before you have medicine, and then you have food, and of course food that's good for you, but what we see is to join those, so that it's not only to prevent illness, but also to, when you have something in the beginning, you can use these products to really improve your health and your wellness. And that's really seeing food much more as having those healing effects in it, in the food itself. And that is the philosophy of Identity.
I love that you mentioned that it's the future of food, because I feel like, in many ways we sort of forget that food's such a wide thing. It's such a simple word for the thing that sustains us all as a species, and we sort of forget that food is meant to be fuel for us. Like, it's meant to promote our health. It's not just for whatever's tasty, regardless of what may be in it. So I'm very glad that you mentioned that as being one of the main philosophies of Identity. And then also in the US, at least, we're not very preventative when it comes to our health. We very much focus on responding to when there is a problem, but not preventing a problem in the first place, in many regards in this country. And so I'm very glad to hear that that's a founding principle over at Identity. Now, going into how the legislation in various countries and the regulations in various countries sort of affect your operations and what y'all are doing. I understand that beyond Identity, you have somewhat of like over 20 years of business experience in running Norwegian companies. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, also the founder and most of the investors that came on board from Norway also have a vast business experience. And I think that's very important, both from my side, having experience from the film industry, also obviously both when it comes to funding and to executing and to understand, I would say, the multimedia aspect of it, and knowing what that means. I think that is a good background to have, although have not dealt with selling
Sure.
food before,
Sure.
right? I also want to say that we are also taking advantage of partnerships on high science. So, for instance, our bone broth is, first of all, 100% sustainable. It's a circular economy. Things that normally would be thrown away before in the chicken industry is now taken care of, and because in Norwegian farming, we don't have any GMO antibiotics in those products, and then we make this very sophisticated, only in the world, cutting edge technology on hydrolyzed protein. We have these products where some are without CBD and some are with CBD. So we are sort of combining the high science and the family farming into these new future food products. So it's both, right? It's both sort of the higher science, and then the family farming sort of philosophy, and bringing that, I would say, from Norway to United States. That's an important part of the foundation of our company.
And you're also at the same time closing that loop of mitigating products that would otherwise be thrown away or discarded, and finding use in them, which is incredibly important to be able to use, the whole chicken or the whole plant or whatever it may be from top down, and really minimizing the waste is another very noble pursuit. Speaking
Yeah.
of bringing those practices from Norway into the U.S., and what the state of the regulations are in Norway in particular. I understand that in February 2021, so just last year, Norway's government proposed a bill to decriminalize drug possession, which would have made the possession of up to 10 grams of cannabis no longer punishable by law. However, just 2 months later, the move was, scuttled by Norway's main opposition party. So for the past 4 years, Identity International has been developing products in partnership with industry-leading companies in Norway and the U.S. So my question for you is, what is the state currently of cannabis and drug policy reform in Norway? What is that like now? What does it look like? And how do the current regulations help or hinder your operations specifically?
Yeah, so first of all, I think that there's no change in the Norwegian laws as of such. It's definitely in the works to legalize CBD, but it's not passed yet. But that is not an issue for us at all, because we do not operate in the Norwegian market at all right now. Of course, we have, half our products is non-CBD, non-problematic for a Norwegian market, but we are still not. That is, relatively speaking, a small market for us. So we will, of course, when the legislation is there, we will move in. But when it comes to Europe, we are concentrating on where it is legalized already, and also we are looking at the marketplace as such, of course, like any business is doing. So when we are deciding where to go and how to proceed, the first thing is the legal. It has to be legal,
Right.
and that's number one. And number two is to make sure that it is as good as it absolutely can be when it comes to the quality of the product. That's the priority. And then within the law of where we want. And then, of course, one thing that we haven't talked about is taste. We want it to taste good because, you know, repeat visitors. That's that's my specialty. And
Sure.
repeat visitors, if it doesn't taste good, it's not food, it's medicine, right? So uh,
Yeah.
we wanna make sure that it tastes absolutely brilliant, so that people will say, "Oh, this is so good. Not only good for me, but it tastes so good that I want to, you know, keep using it and to eat it or drink it." Yeah.
Or drink it. Yeah, that's such a. I feel like it's almost like a given when it comes to developing a food or beverage company that infuses cannabinoids, because the taste of cannabis, you know, it's an acquired taste. I would say not everyone really enjoys like the taste of the edible that they may get, but. And so I'm glad to hear that y'all focus on the taste of it, because again, that's what brings the people back to your company, and then adding on, you know, the focus on the quality and making sure that everything is processed in a responsible way is really what will set y'all apart. So jumping overseas then from Norway to the U.S. You know, here in this country, it's a tangled web we weave, isn't it? Cannabis, hemp, and cannabinoid laws differ in nations across the globe, and certainly even within states and cities throughout the U.S. here. So, with that being said, how does conducting your business operations in the nations that you do operate in contrast with your operations here in the U.S., particularly when it comes to navigating the tangled web of federal or even local level regulations?
Yeah, so you could say that we make sure that we are within the law, of course, in the United States, but also when we started to look at Europe, we saw that okay, that is a difference, and we have to sort of make sure that our products we have to find the lowest bar, right? And we have to make sure that we are within that and not try to stretch everything up to the highest bar. So, I'm obviously that is a challenge, but that was, as I said, being legal is the first thing, because if it's not legal, then you know you will have some issues down the road. So we just make sure that we are well within the law. That was actually the first part, you know, and then obviously we knew that given also the whole mission and the whole reason why we are here is to make sure we make as good products as we absolutely can, and pure and clean products, because you know some of the products are not, and we want to avoid that.
Yeah. Some of the products are not, and some of, you know, there are a multitude of companies that are springing up left and right. Every single day there's a new cannabis or hemp or CBD company, and not all of them really focus on the quality and the efficacy of the product. And something I've been reflecting on lately is, you know, what sets the cannabis and hemp industries apart is that very active community base that acts as the foundation for it. And, you know, as the policy shifts and as the cultural shifts happen in this country, we're really building trust within the community. And it's up to the cannabis and the hemp companies to really foster that trust. And then at the same time, that trust can be broken very, very easily. And you know, once the trust is broken, it's very, very difficult to rebuild that trust. Is that something that you feel is something that occurs in the hemp and cannabis industries?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and it's something that I think you're making a very good point, because if you are in the film industry, of course we focus on quality, right? You want to make a good film. There's certain things that goes into it. Normally, it costs not necessarily, you know, that much more, but you have to to pay where you're going to get that quality, right? You have to have good people, you have to, and then you have a good film. But even if you made a bad film, okay, that was bad, and everybody that put money into is sad, and people won't show up, and that's not very fun. But if you make a bad food product, or a CBD or a cannabis product, people are eating that, and they are putting it either on or in their body.
Right.
So I think that we have a responsibility beyond just not being able to do quality, but it is something about actually telling people that you should eat this or you should drink this, and this is really good for you. And then if it's not, then you can actually do some harm. And I think obviously that has to do with ethics. It has to follow the rules, obviously, but I think in the end it has to do with who are you as a company and as people, and are you willing to compromise on that just to make the money? And I think in our case, we want to make sure that it actually is good for people, and that it is. But how to get that across, that message across, that's hard, because obviously everybody will say it, but do you have it, right? And all you can do is to make sure that at least we can do absolutely the best we can to get the best products out there, and just make sure that we have the integrity, and that we know that at least we are trying, and we are trying to get that message across. But it is hard, of course, because how do you know, right? How do you as a consumer know the difference if you're not deep into it and really can understand it?
Right. Yeah. Everyone can just slap, with the flimsy regulations, people can slap CBD on a product, and you don't really know if it has that potency level of CBD that it says on the packaging there. And leaving a bad taste in a consumer's mouth in the food and beverage industry comes with much more ramifications than, as you mentioned, perhaps making a film that is poorly received. At least you're not usually directly affecting someone's well-being and physical health in that process, unless the movie's that bad, you know what I mean? But and I mean, as an actor performer myself, I it's a completely different episode, but I would love to just pick your brain about all of your filmmaking experience. It's so extensive. But we'll keep it on topic for this discussion, at least for now.
Right.
Going back to the state of the regulations then in this country, and hopeful future legislative change, which has been picking up chatter throughout the years, especially now with President Joe Biden in office, although some advocates are very disappointed with the lack of action he's taken during his first year in regards to cannabis policy reform. Identity sources hemp grown using organic methods in Oregon and Colorado. And perhaps an example of when federal regulations cause more confusion than clarity in the U.S. is the ongoing issue with the law passed by Congress in 2018 that made it federally legal to grow hemp as long as the plants didn't contain high levels of Delta-9 THC. It's a very important distinction there, because now in states where cannabis isn't legal yet, there's a growing demand, a booming market for new products that contain Delta-8 THC, which is synthetically sourced from hemp. And produces a Delta-9 THC-like high, but isn't covered at least yet by any sort of federal regulations. There are some states that are working on some. So with that all being said, tell me about what the importance is that you see in communicating effectively with cannabis experts, scientists, and business operators such as yourself, who are really steeped in all of this, in order to ensure that future and hopeful cannabis legislation is sufficiently comprehensive and doesn't really cause any sort of those gray areas that we're now seeing with Delta-8.
Yeah. So what we are, as I said again, we sort of are making sure that we are within the law. That is sort of our first thing. When it comes to the other part, is sort of the proof is in the pudding, right? So obviously, because we are not out to make products that make you high, we for our products and everything, we are good with doing it the way we're doing it. It is, the hemp and the biomass that we are using is sort of, as good as it gets. But I do think that it's a point. We do need regulation. It needs to be federal, so that it is not so, what can I say, this is here and not there and so on. It's very confusing, also for the consumers, and it's also creating some loopholes maybe for not getting the quality that the consumers deserve. And I think that is important, very important. Even if we are on the CBD side, if you go into the THC side, that's a totally different discussion altogether.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Totally different monster, the THC side, especially with this weird gray area now with the Delta 8, and it acts like THC, but it's from hemp. So where do you put this? How do you classify this? I certainly hope to see sometime, hopefully in the near future, some sort of, legislation and comprehensive measures that sort of, eliminate this gray area and really provide the clarity. And I certainly hope that they bring in the experts, the business leaders, the community members in the drafting of this sort of legislation. Just to make sure that, you have people in the room who actually know what they're talking about, instead of these, people who may have their political motives or whatever may have you, drafting this legislation. We're already well into 2022. I cannot believe that it's already 2022. The past 2 years have been but a blur, if I do say so myself. But with that said, what have you got in the works over at Identity that you're looking forward to for the course of this year and in future years that you can share with me? I know you may have some top secret things, but what can you share with me?
Yes. Well, so of course, I have it right here. Actually, our bone broth, of course, it's already out.
I love it.
But,
I love it when the guests bring a prop. This is always the best.
Yes.
Yeah. Love it.
So, say like single pack, but the genius about this, of course, is the bone broth from Norway. It tastes incredible, but it has 13 grams of protein, 100% bioavailable.
Wow.
In one. So if you go hiking or whatever, so we are very happy to bring that into the market. Our next generation of a similar product will have 20 grams of protein in it, and we're bringing that to market already this year. We are also having some drinks that's coming out with biodegradable packaging. We're very, very excited about 2022 and 2023, because what I would say is that when you are in this industry and when you are looking into future food, it's not about just the next 6 months or the next 12 months, but we are thinking the 6 months and the 12 months, but also the next 3 years, the 5 years, the 10 years, and the 15 years. And how can we really grow this into what we think is going to be a movement, because it's needed,
Yeah, it's so important to get these products out to the people who can really benefit from them in their physical or even their mental well-being. It's all in line there. And your core philosophy of making sure that you're putting out the proper products and making sure that everything is done in a responsible manner is such a great ambition. And when you mentioned bone broth, I don't know if you heard my dog, but you woke her up when you said bone broth. She loves the bone broth. So yeah, she's all for it. She was all for it. She was ready to roll.
Yeah, pet food is definitely based on the same technologies, also in the works. Already have the beginning of that, and of course the high protein content together, of course, with that sustainable way of, or circular economy way of producing it. That what was normally a waste product now is a high-end, highly sufficient and high protein product. Is really exciting.
I love to see it. I love to see it. And we will certainly be keeping an eye on all that y'all have got going on over at Identity. Please continue to keep up all of the great work. And I thank you so much for taking the time and offering your perspective. And I wish you nothing but well-being and peace and safety out there. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks the same.
Absolutely. Solvi Barber, everybody. That is it for Hash It Out, y'all. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I'm your host, RJ Balde, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out our channel. Click here to watch another episode of Hash It Out. To find more cannabis industry reporting, insider stories, and to stay up to date on the latest trends, make sure to subscribe and keep up with our Trichomes community app. Download it now for free, and we'll see you there.